All right, so if you all have that handout, which was in the link to the meeting, I would suggest you grab it, keep it handy. If you've got it on your laptop and you're going to take notes, anytime you see a pencil, that is where you take a note. And so it'll correlate anytime a pencil comes up on a screen. That is a related note to the handout. There is no need to turn the notes in. They're really for your own edification. I am a huge note taker, so for me, it was a big deal. It helps. That's how I learn and how I absorb things. So please feel free to use that tool if it makes sense to you. It's not an obligation. And then to cover real quick the expectations that you will have in this class. We do have a last homework piece, and that is presented at the end of the class weeks. Typically 5, 6, and 7 is when we start to present what's called an organizational review. That's kind of what Jillian referred to, is that she was put under the microscope, so to speak, her tax return. We have a formula that we go through to examine the tax return. And then what we really like you to do is identify an organization within your community. And I'm talking like 100 miles, someplace where you can drive to, where you can either volunteer or you can give a grant check to them. So that's your last piece of homework that is required to be turned in. And we also require you to watch a movie called Poverty Inc. And we'll make sure you get the link. There is a questionnaire with Poverty Inc. So once you watch it, a few questions that you need to answer, and then that gets turned in as well. We are here to help you along the way. If you find that you need support in identifying an organization, something along the lines doesn't make sense, I encourage you, anybody, to stop and raise your hands. Like I said in the very beginning, your feedback is how I learn, and I learn just as much from you as you might from any one of us that are teaching. There's a lot to share and a lot of ideas, and a lot of times people will say something, you're like, wow, I never thought about that. So it's important to keep engaged and keep sharing whatever's going on. And if I, say something that provokes a response of irritation, or gosh, I can't believe they said that, or that's in the curriculum, sometimes things are taught and meant to cause you to be irritated or cause you to stop and think. And that's really ultimately what we want for you, is make you stop and think about the way you currently do things, and hopefully shift so that you see new and different ways to be generous, or even different ways to relate to the people that are around you. So with that said, I did say I was going to share my screen, right? Okay, here we go. All right, we did this part. We're going to go on to slide. I can get it to move, or maybe not. Okay, let me come out of this here. Here we go. Okay, so we introduced ourselves. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Steve Bray. I'm going to have you watch a quick video. Steve is our founder of the Giving University. Once we get through this basic, introducing you to what GU is about, we're going to talk about our mission and our vision and what our intentions are. And then I'm going to hand it over to Jaime to talk about, what the definition of generosity based on what we see, and then talk a little bit about what you might see. Let me go ahead and share from my screen here.
If I look back in my life, I had 3 distinct points of calling, or really a change in my whole direction. One was in 1975, I became a Christian, and I went from just partying and craziness at 18 to realizing that there was something better and bigger, and something more, add more purpose. And so I started to walk with Jesus. The second one was when I thought I wanted to be a pastor, and I came to realize that my skills would be better used in building a company and then using those proceeds to help people in need. In 2005, what I call calling 3 was, we're really good at this. We need to formalize this into what we now call the Giving University. And that's where we literally go around the world and impact people that have need. So that in 2005, that was when that was born.
So that's kind of a brief overview. I have a longer video that I'm going to email out to you that just gives you some more details about what Steve's heart for it. The one thing he didn't mention in the shorter clip was that, he came to a realization that, he had part of the legacy that he could share with his kids. And it dawned on him that his kids probably weren't in that right headspace so that they could turn around and give some of their, assets to the kids. And from that, decision that their kids weren't quite ready for the assets they created, Giving University. And so, as he mentioned, he formed it in 2005, and we have been teaching classes since then. We've been on over 40 trips. We've had more than 520 different organizations be vetted by students like you. And when I say vetted, what they've done is they've gone through the process of taking the 6, questions that we have, and we have looked at their tax returns. Students have called the organizations, have said, hey, I'm really interested in giving you a grant. Can you talk to me about what you do? And going through that research process, it takes each one of you, and it's taken all these other, students that have been through the organization to be able to find out who's doing really good work with the things that they say they're doing, and their vision really applies to what they promise and say they're going to do. Their money is going to be used appropriately, and that's a lot of what we're going to talk about next week. How are organizations using their money appropriately, and what do we need to be on the lookout for? So that said, let me go back to this real quick. Any questions so far? I know I'm talking a lot. Raise the hands. No, seriously? Okay, I'll get to calling on you eventually. So we want to talk about what the vision is, mission. Our intention is to ignite generosity and leave the world a better place. That kind of seems like a no-brainer, right? But what does it take to ignite your generosity? And part of what we're going to talk about is your passion. And that's how you get excited about generosity. It's deciding that you want to do something more for somebody. And again, here's that little pencil right there on the screen. That's the place, so that's where a note is on your handout. Our vision is to instill and demonstrate. We want to promote generosity through any viable means that we can, but we want to do it in an informed manner. We want to give charitably based on education. We want to give it because we've taken the time to understand what each different organization does, and understanding that they're really doing what they say they're going to do. We accomplish this task by doing these classes. You will discover that the curriculum is based on the foundation of faith. You will see Bible verses. We use them primarily from the standpoint is that there's really good stuff in the Bible. It really says some good things about generosity. There's a platform of what Jesus said, which was to be generous and be kind. And so we're taking that and by extension and putting that out into the world. And so we're doing that through each one of you. And again, you don't need to be going to church. You don't have to have a walk of faith to do this, but this is foundationally really good stuff. And so we share it from the standpoint of not to push that the Bible's something you have to read, though we encourage you to, but hey, by the way, there's some really good stuff here and life lessons to be learned. So any political affiliation, we try to erase that and make this a really neutral platform and a neutral place where we can talk about ways that we can be generous and give from our hearts, because there's a well of it inside of us. Sometimes all we need to do is be activated. We give you $1,000. So when I talked about the organizational reviews, what you will do is vet that organization, like I mentioned, and then you get to turn around and give them $1,000 check. That's a really cool part. That's one of the elements as a student, as a graduate, that you get to go do. Fun part is you get to go and meet new people, even if you're an introvert, even if you're not too sure about calling them on the phone. Find something that really gets you excited. Don't just do something because they're down the street or near you. Do something because you are excited about it, or because it tugs on your heart. Much like a few of you have already shared about just the homeless that you're seeing. Is that really something that's on your heart, or is that just a place where you feel sad and bad for them? So we're going to encourage you to focus and think about different ways to be generous. As I mentioned, and we've already mentioned, service trips and overseas trips, and 2 of them are paid, so you get 1 of each. However, we do have tons of repeat students, and when they get to go repeat, we're typically asked you to share in the costs 50-50. Always excited and welcome to have, more of you go along with us. Definitely GUs for the whole family. I will share a quick clip here, and then I'm going to hand it off to Jaime. We love going with the kids. So I want to say COVID was really instrumental in pushing us into wanting to do more with the kids and our younger kids. Some of you mentioned you have younger ones, 6, 8, and upwards. We needed a trip that we could go and do fun things with our families. And so we partnered with an organization called Yugo Home Build, which your cousin Marlon is a part of, and his dad, and they go down to Ensenada and they build homes for the people who are in desperate need. A lot of folks are living in tarp houses, or they're living in burned out trailers. And so we take our kids and we get to go down there and we get to build houses, and it's really a lot of fun. It's a great relationship building. It's a great time to connect. As Nancy said, Sherry took her kids down last year, and it was probably something they'd never done before, work together like that as a family to build a house. Picking up hammers, going on the roof, putting tarps down, painting, we do the whole thing. So it's really a blast.
My experience with GU has been pretty awesome for myself and my wife, both my daughters, Lily and Charlotte. We took the program last year, and it was a great experience just to have all 4 of us come together for the 8-week experience, learning about the way the nonprofits work and the charities. And that was a great experience for each and every one of us to go to our different spot. Very, very cool experience. Recommend it. And I mean, it's just amazing to get these families a nice house and good shelter. So again, it's been great for the kids. They're learning how to use the power tools and working together, and what a great opportunity working with the family. Personally, I think me and my family, we're gonna start to learn Spanish, because it's very hard for us to communicate with the family without the translator. So that's one thing that I would really want to do with my family this next year is to learn the basics just for communication. Just honored to be a part of this and bless the family. And Yugo, thank you for everything you guys do. GU, thank you for everything you guys do, and thank you for having us.
Hey, so we're going back again. We just committed to 4 houses, 2 the week of June 4th and 2 the week of June 11th. So super excited to go again. I'm looking forward to it. It's fun to teach the kids and then turn around as the teacher to go down with them. And they're like, oh, wow, you're Miss Beth. This is really awesome. I'm glad you could go. Good time to spend with them and encourage them in their growth and generosity. So I gratefully am happy to turn this over to Jaime. I'm glad to stop talking. I think I've run out of spit.
Thank you, Beth. And before I start, guys, there's a lot of moving pieces to get these courses together, and there's a lot of time, a lot of effort. So let's give it up for Beth. That was my silent clap, Beth. So let me see here. Let me share my screen. Are you guys able to see that?
Yep.
Okay, very good. So, I want to make sure that I respect your guys' time. I think I got probably about 35 minutes. This next section is going to be defining generosity. Now, I want you guys to know that this is Giving University's definition that they've come up with as far as what generosity means, okay? Now, it doesn't mean that this is the only definition that just generosity means, but for the sake of, this lesson, this is the definition that we'll be using, okay, moving forward. Now, before we do that, let's see here. We're going to start by having you write down your best definition of generosity, okay? And we're going to have a couple of you guys share that definition, okay? So take a couple minutes and write down what you believe is your best definition of generosity. All right. Does anybody want to share what they wrote down? Come on, you know what? We're gonna we love interaction. It makes it fun. It makes it faster. So the faster we get an answer, the faster we can proceed.
I
Jillian
can
has her
share.
hand up. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Cool. Go. Nancy.
Okay, I wrote down demonstrating my heart in a meaningful and intentional way to benefit others through time or talent or treasure.
That's good. That's really good. Anybody else?
Nobody can top
Jillian. And
Oh,
then
I just-
Felix.
Yeah, mine's much shorter than hers. I just said giving and helping others with selfless motivation.
That's good.
Mm,
Yeah,
indeed.
that's good. Anybody else? One more person.
Yeah, I'll go. I put give freely. I said give without expecting nothing in return, and give with a loving heart.
Oh, he
my God.
coached you.
That's good.
Wow.
Actually, I did it. That surprised me. I was like, whoa,
That's your brother.
excellent. Yeah, that's really good. That's really good. Okay, so let's read what Given University defines as generosity. Okay, so this is the Given University definition of generosity, and it's pretty simple, but it's very powerful. Now, it's freely giving or sharing things we value for the benefits of others. So most of you guys said one area of that, and when we combine those, those definitions, we get what we have here. Again, freely giving or sharing things we value for the benefit of others. Now, again, very simple and practical definition. Now, this could include money, possessions, and talents. Somebody earlier said time, talents, and treasures. And in this case, definitely we can include that in generosity, right? Your finances, money, possessions, and talent. So what about time? You guys think that can be considered generous? Now, if you guys ask me, the older I get, I see the value a lot more in time. Right? I feel like I lost too much time where I can't afford to be losing any more time. So definitely time, giving up your time is definitely generosity. For you leaders out there, some of you guys are spending some time with others, building them and teaching them. So keep doing that good work. Generosity doesn't demand joy. Okay. Generosity, again, does not demand joy. And generosity doesn't demand a sacrifice. Although I do believe that, when you go above and beyond your giving, there can be some type of a sacrifice there behind your generosity. Let's talk about the generosity versus giving. Okay. So giving could include things that are not valuable to you. Now, we all have those old pairs of shoes, right? Those old sweaters that we have in our closet that we can give, and it doesn't really matter whether we keep them or not, right? I would consider that more giving than being generous. Also, giving could be mandatory, okay? I guess an example there would be paying your taxes. At work, I have currently 9 technicians, and they all have to go on this on-call rotation where they have to spend time for a week and take calls. You know, that they need to give their time, you know, to this on-call rotation. Or some of you may have to do some internship where you have to give up your time, and you know, that's mandatory. But at the end of the day, generosity is always voluntary. Okay, generosity is always going to be voluntary. You don't have to do that out of pressure or out of impulse. It's always going to be a voluntary act. We're going to do a little pop quiz here, and based on the definition of the generosity, we're going to go through a couple scenarios, and I want you guys to tell me whether or not these are examples of being generous or not. The first one, it says, Dad buys a new BMW for his 16-year-old son. My first question is, why would he do that? What are you guys' thoughts? Is Dad being generous? Is this being generous?
No.
It's not for the benefit of others.
Right. He's definitely giving, but right, this is within family, father, son. So I don't want to say it's an obligation, but it's easier to give to your 16-year-old son, right? Let's read the second one. A dentist fills cavities for the poor for free. Anybody's input?
That would be generosity, because he's giving something that is going to be of value to others.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Everybody agree?
Yes.
Yeah, he definitely doesn't have to do that, but the fact that he is speaking for itself.
Absolutely right. So when we break it down, that you have this dentist, filling of cavities, that's the value portion, right? For the poor is the benefit of others, and for free, that's monetary. So definitely generosity. A family donates all the stuff that they didn't sell in the garage sale.
That's
As
giving.
a victim of this, it is not generosity. It creates more work for the nonprofit. It is not fun. It is not
Good insight. Good insight.
awful.
Straight
Every
from the
time I
mouth.
clean, someone brings me all their stuff, and they get really sad if you're like, I can't use this, and they want you to take it anyway.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think that's being generous at all. I think that's just getting rid of your junk that you have, right?
Yeah.
What about this one? A man donates his old cassette tapes to the poor in Jamaica.
That's giving, because those are old and probably not be valuable to the person.
Well, I think that most people here don't even know what a cassette tape is. First of all.
Yeah,
So
only
let's
if
break
they're
that
like
down.
antiques that are if they're valuable, like they could auction them, maybe.
And you know what? I really started thinking about this, because I think there's like a lot more than just what we're reading, right? Because I would ask, well, yeah, what's the value in these old cassette tapes, right? And maybe he can, sell them, So
Well, and I'm always thinking like a third world country that actually doesn't have CDs or, MP3 viewing devices actually might like a cassette tape.
there you go.
That's, kind of like half and half.
There it is. There it is. And who doesn't know what a cassette tape is? They don't want to say. Okay, let's continue, guys. Let's continue. So again, when we give, we're giving for free or sharing things, which means that can include time, your treasure, your talents, right? And not only things, right, but things that we value for the benefit of others, right? Man on the street. Can we go to the man on the street video?
Well, generosity to me is being able to give up something that's important to you, or give up your time, and go and help someone else out, whether that be something tangible like money or something, emotionally.
The act of being kind and giving.
Generosity to me is giving. You can either give your time, you can give somebody something materialistic, giving of anything to someone for kind reasons or of need.
Giving to people in need.
What I do with life, giving something back for what you get.
I'd say generosity is a characteristic that more people should probably have because it really benefits a lot of people.
Generosity is giving to others and helping other people.
I can't!
Generosity is giving to other people when you don't need to necessarily. Just kind of out of your heart, you just giving out something to someone else because you think you should. Under certain circumstances, yes. It depends on the situation. Sometimes I'm not as generous as I want to be.
I think I'm kind of generous, but I could improve.
I would consider myself a pretty generous person. Growing up in a family with a younger brother, I did take a lot of time to share things with him.
I am. I give a lot to my family, and I give my time to my church and to some different charities when I can.
Yeah, I have been all my life. I'm trying to give back to the homeless. As soon as I get it going, I'll get it going.
I think I'm a generous person because I tend to share with my friends a lot and I'm not very selfish when it comes to my belongings.
Yeah, I think so. I like helping other people and giving to other people.
Yeah, I would consider myself a generous person. If I were to see, one of my friends or a family going through something tough or need help, I definitely would go out of my way and help them with that.
What do you guys think about the mom who shares with her family? She said a couple of things. She said, I give a lot to my family. I give my time to the church, and I give to charities. What do you guys think about her? She being generous?
Partially because, or mostly because when it comes to family, it's sort of a given, like, oh, here, let me take care of you because you're sick, or let me help you by doing the dishes. That's something that you can do on a regular basis, but going out of your way to serve at your local church, or to even, how she said, to donate to charity, or however she said it, that's sort of her going out of her way to do that. So to me, I think that is generous.
Yeah, very good. I agree.
Mm.
I definitely agree. So there's a link here. I'm not going to go to that, but those are some generosity tips that you can view on your own. I took a look at those, and there's 2 tips that I really enjoyed. The tip number 2 says, don't expect anything in return. And this is why I was surprised when my brother said the same thing earlier today. And then tip number 12, it says, activate a pay it forward effect. Activate a pay it forward effect. So in your own time, please go into that website and take a look at those generosity tips.
Hey, and I will be sending out the slides for everybody, so you'll get these as your notes.
Thank you. And so, like we mentioned earlier, although this is not a Christian course, we do use Bible verses to show example of what generosity looks like. Okay, and so we're going to go into one, and it's a quote from Paul. Okay, this is a quote to consider from Paul, and it reads like this: though they, referring to the Macedonians, have been going through much trouble and hard times, their wonderful joy and deep poverty have overflowed in rich generosity. For I can testify that they gave not only what they could afford, but far more. And they did it out of their own free will. Now, this is the Bible verse that we got Steve Bray to create this organization called the Giving University because of this quote in the Bible. Now, what do you guys think about, what are some of the characteristics of the Macedonians? Any characteristics of the Macedonians that pop out?
Giving out of their poverty.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Anybody else? There's more.
That
I'll
they're-
have- go ahead.
Oh, I would say that they're joyful despite whatever circumstances they are in.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites right there.
Yep.
One more person.
I would
They
say
do it
that,
through their own free will. Ooh,
yeah,
sorry.
that was exactly what I was going to say. So, yes.
Yeah, awesome, Stella.
And what was that again? They what? Can somebody
That they
repeat
do
that?
it from their own
Get
free
that.
will.
Oh, they gave out of their own free will. Okay, yeah.
Yep.
Let's take a look at these. What are the characteristics of these Macedonians? Well, they were going through some hard times, right? First of all. But it also talks about wonderful joy. And then it goes into deep poverty, rich generosity, gave more than they could afford, and they gave of their own free will. Now, you know, if going through a hard time isn't enough, right? They were still able to have wonderful joy in deep poverty, and were able to still be rich, still have rich generosity to the point where they gave more than they could afford and gave out of their own free will. Guys, that's powerful. That's generosity at its finest, right? What a wonderful example in the scriptures that we have. Let's discuss this. You know, what do you guys think? Whether it's possible to have a deep poverty and wonderful joy at the same time. Does anybody have any input on that?
I'm really curious if anybody's actually experienced a moment of where you didn't have much money in the bank or even food in the cabinet. Would anybody be willing to share when you've had a moment like that?
Can I share one?
Yeah, please.
So, you know, I was an alcoholic for a long time, and I hit rock bottom, and I lost it all. I mean, I lost it all. I had about 3 homes that I had invested in, lost those homes, lost these cars, and finally I had to humble myself and then go back and live with my parents. You know, I was 30 years old going back, moving in. And for the longest, I didn't have enough money to pay for bills. It was always like, I'd never had enough. But then there was a point where I was able to pay all my bills. And this is when I was learning to tithe. So I started tithing, and I was able to pay all my bills and not have any money left. But I was so happy that all the bills were paid, and I was able to tithe. That was so joyful for me to be able to experience that in my life.
Yeah, that's exactly kind of what I'm getting at. I think there is a time where you end up with nothing. And I think in a lot of ways, any of us who are maybe over 30, you've probably experienced a time where, you know, you haven't had a lot and you came out of it okay, you're here, you survived. And there are probably some nuggets and some moments and times in your life where there can still be joy, you know, in those experiences. Thanks for sharing that. That's a tough story, man.
Now, some of the trips that I've taken, we're able to see this. We see this a lot
Yeah.
in other countries, where the people are content with just the minimum.
Yeah.
And for them, it's, man, I have enough. I have this, right? I remember going to a soup kitchen in Colombia, and the workers there, they had the finances for that day. They didn't know what was going to happen tomorrow, but for today, they're like, we have what it takes to give today. And
Yeah.
you talk about having enough, right, for the day, and still being joyful to be able to share that and give that away. And
Yeah.
those are just one of the, the things that, a couple of things that you see when you go to these out of the country trips.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah.
So, discuss whether we have to be wealthy to be generous. Does anybody want to respond to that? Do we have to be wealthy to be generous?
No.
No.
I'd like to hear from Jason and Whitney. Any thoughts on that? Because you have a pretty big family.
I would say no. I think a good example of actually friends of ours who they've never really had a lot of, they have been probably such huge good examples of generosity, because they open up their house to people. They've had people that have essentially been homeless live with them for periods of time. They've had a family recently that just moved here from Africa live with them with their daughter. They give things away. So I'd say definitely not. You don't. You just.
That's a really great example, though, of taking wealth that you have and sharing it, right? Just opening your heart and your home to people, strangers, right? I like that. That's cool. Thank you. So in some ways, that does kind of marry the idea that you have to be wealthy to be generous. In this case, these friends can be, but I don't know that we necessarily have to be, because when we talk about, I don't know who mentioned it early on about just sharing the time, sharing your time. Being able to share time is a way to be generous, and especially if you don't have a big bank account. And there's a story about in the Bible about the widow's mite, and all she had left was the tiniest of pennies, and still she gave what she had. And she wasn't wealthy, but she gave what she had. And I think that story correlates a lot with what we hope to do to teach and breathe into all of you. Sorry, Jaime, I hijacked you.
No, that's good. You know what? One thing I love about that scripture is said that the Lord saw.
Yes.
The Lord saw her giving. Oh man, that's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how do we apply this quote in our life, right? They gave not only what they could afford, but more. And they did it out of their own free will. Now, I think at times we can have this idea that we can't give, right? We can't give, but I think that there's other means of giving, as we talked about earlier. It doesn't have to be monetary. It doesn't have to be money. I guarantee that everyone here on this call is talented in one area or another.
Yeah.
And so you can be generous by using your talents, and again, using your time. So it doesn't necessarily mean it's always going to be about money. As far as giving university, this is what they're, I guess, specialized in, is the finance portion of being generous. But not everyone has that ability, but it shouldn't take away from not freely giving.
Yeah, good point.
I'm witnessing that quote. Oh, sorry, you're gonna jump ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, with the group of leaders right now that I'm volunteering with in the Denver class that's happening right now, it's been really beautiful to see them support one another around Thanksgiving. They had asked each other, we break off into small groups. And so everybody was checking in to make sure everyone had somewhere to go for Thanksgiving. I see them give each other rides all the time. I see them come in and share food. We have a group of CDL people are going for their CDLs, and there's 5 of them, and they've just become this beautiful little family. And it's just so joyful to see them laughing together, showing up together. So I just wanted to share that's pretty special.
That is.
That's
Cool.
really awesome.
Thanks,
when-
Nancy.
When, you know, the example comes from the leadership right down.
Mhm.
That's awesome. Okay, in this section, we're gonna talk about finding your passion, all right? And this is an area of high interest that we have. We're gonna have a little exercise. We're gonna give you a couple minutes again. And what we want you to do is we want you to
People who are poor.
people who
Say
are
that again. Poor,
People who are poor.
okay?
Put down sick, people who are sick,
Yep.
illness.
People with barriers to food or clean water, access to that.
Yeah.
People who are displaced.
Say again, Texas?
People
No,
who
you
are
can-
emotionally struggling.
Oh, yes.
I would say, yeah, someone that has lost a spouse who might have been the breadwinner of that family.
Yeah.
People who are displaced.
Displaced. Yep. Thank you. Julian, how about you?
I put people who are hurting.
Yep.
And these are some really good answers.
And maybe people who can't afford medical care.
Yep.
I had placed broken homes / families.
People who are away from any type of services.
So like isolated, living in
Yes.
isolated places. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Those are all very good
Mm-hmm.
answers. Let's go into some of these types of people in need. The first one is people who are living in poverty. That's a really good one, where there's a lack of water, food, or homelessness. People who are sick, people who are oppressed, right, with human right violations or racism. People who don't have a loving family. I think some of you guys got a hold of our lesson plan. I think that's what right, Beth?
Yep. Yep.
I think it leaked.
Or we're all in the same, page, which is awesome.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I still say it's leaked. I'm just fine. People who were affected by a disaster, okay, or people who need skills, job training, literacy, or people who need spiritual guidance. Now, I want you guys to take a look at these and take some time and really reflect if there's any of those groups of people that you may have a passion to help, okay? Because we're going to have to come back around to that. It's going to be our job to help you find out, what your passion is. Now, some passions do not directly address people in need, okay? Such as animals, political causes, the environment, or pure medical research. So the Gibbon University tends to focus more on now impact, right? Impacting now. And so we're going to try to avoid some of these, doing research for some of these different types of groups. And if you are passionate about these areas, we're not saying that they're less important, but we want to focus on people in help and an immediate need at this time.
Yeah.
Okay, so passion. What does it mean? It means a powerful or compelling emotion or feeling. Now, this can go beyond intellectual reasoning, where it doesn't even make sense to do something, where you have a person that's making $250,000 a year and decides to quit their job to pastor a church. If you're compassionate for that, then sometimes it doesn't make any sense. It compels you to action. Okay, it's not just a wish or just looking back and in the benches. Like, you want to be in the game, right? A strong feeling of enthusiasm or excitement for something or about doing something, more than just the latest popular crisis. Now, we're going to show you a video. Beth, if you want to pull up Precious Kids.
It's actually quite long, so I'm going to send it along in the email and let everybody watch it on their own.
I definitely recommend that you guys watch this video. You're going to find a lot of passionate people helping other people in this video. All right. Individual exercise, we're going to spend some time contemplating which types of people you're most passionate about. We're going to have you do this on your own time and circle back with you again next week. Again, you're going to spend some time contemplating which type of people that you're most passionate about. Okay, you can refer back to the notes that we took earlier and select one type and write a few sentences on why you are passionate about those people and why you think you can become passionate about them. Another thing that we want you to do is follow us on Facebook at facebook.com, givinguniversity.org. And then please join our page in Instagram at Giving University.
Yeah, we do publish classes there, and then we'll also put trip highlights when we go places, and we do our best to try to post new trips as they come along somewhere on our page.
Right. There's a lot of good information in those websites. Check your email for a recap on what we taught, and go through the PDFs and watch those videos. Review the givinguniversity.org website and watch the front page video. And in that Giving University website, you can click on the student page and download the 990 analysis form that you're going to be needing. Additionally, you can find the Poverty Inc. Movie and questionnaire. In the past, we used to have pay to watch for this video. But now you can watch it for free. I mean, you can still, buy it if you wish. But this video, I guarantee once you watch this video of Poverty Inc., it's going to change your life. And it's going to change the way that you think about giving, right? And this might sound like an oxymoron, but there's like a thing of like bad giving, right? And this video goes through that. And it gives, and it actually shows you the impact of what happens when there's bad giving. Either I guess the desire, it may be good, but we really want to do it the right way. Okay. Anything that I missed, Beth?
No, you're great. We do have a link on the student page on Giving University of the free version on Tubi of Poverty Inc. if you need it. I think it's also on Amazon. And yeah, so feel free to watch it. We will talk about poverty in a few more weeks, but if you want to get a jump on it, it definitely creates a little bit of sense of indignation, and you might get a little ticked off by some of what you see. But in some ways I'm kind of glad, because that'll, spur you on to want to change, your point of view or what you might think about who you give to. why you give to, and how to, you know, change the point of view of yourself as well as your family, your friends. Any questions, you guys? You've been an attentive group. I appreciate your contributions. Gracie, are you back there behind Kamaya? Awesome. Yeah, you'll get credit. Sorry, friend. I don't know why you didn't get the link, but we'll get you hooked up. I appreciate it. Okay. No other thoughts? Veronica, anything to share?
Just, you know, I think just hearing everybody out, and volunteering and taking your time is just, even now for Beth actually and Jaime, just that kind of just goes to show the generosity within our organization, that we do spend that quality time, you know, out of our busy schedules to be able to be and here and have you guys have this experience in the next couple of weeks. So just thanks, Beth and Jaime.
You're welcome.
It's awesome. And I'm looking forward to seeing the organizations you guys are looking to get.
Yeah, me too. You all have such different and diverse ideas, so it'll be interesting to see, you know, what you come up with. Cool. All right, you guys, thanks for joining us. Any questions that pop up, feel free to email me. Thank you, Jaime, very much for teaching. I greatly appreciate it. We will send out the class slides and then video links to a couple of them that we didn't get to cover tonight. And we look forward to seeing you next week, same time. Take care, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.